Welcome viewers. In this program, our guest today is Mr. J. Morrison, a nationally renowned speed skater. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you.
So please tell us, how did you enjoy growing up in Fort St. John?
Oh, I loved Fort St. John as a kid. I still love it today. I was born in Chetwynd, and when I was 6, I moved to Fort St. John with my family. And I grew up in Fort St. John from the age of 6 until 17 when I moved then down to Calgary. And then that was to pursue my speed skating career. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that. But then when I was finished with speed skating, I saw a lot of opportunity back in Fort St. John. So I moved back here at the age of 27, and I've been here now another 7 years.
Thank you. And when did you discover your passion for sports?
Sports are something that I came into quite naturally, and with, I think, quite a bit of guidance and decision making from my mother. It was very early in life. My mother had realized, and my father as well, that I was a very active type of a child. I had an endless amount of energy, and I just kept going. So when I was at my best was when I got my physical activity like every day or multiple times a day. So with that in mind, I think that my parents put me in every sports opportunity that there was. One of those opportunities was speed skating in a brand new club in Chetwynd back in the 80s. And that's where I got my start in speed skating back in about 1988 or 89 or somewhere back there. But I've always been involved in sports, and it was because of that energy, and it just made me better able to focus in school. When I had exerted some energy, I was continuously participating in sports and being physically active.
And your family is highly regarded for promoting and developing speed skating all over the country. What inspired your family to produce world-class athletes?
It really started back when we were kids. And I mean, my parents put us in every sport, like I said. Speed skating was one of those sports. I think that the reason we were initially put into speed skating was because we were too young to join the hockey league in Chetwynd. And so my parents put us into the speed skating club. They thought, well, we'll teach the kids how to skate. And it sure taught us how to skate. And then as we got into it, we really liked speed skating. We liked the sort of the environment. It is an individual sport, but there's a real team environment. It's a very family-oriented sport. So we loved it, and we just continued on in it. From a young age, my parents never had an ambition for us to become world-class Olympic speed skating athletes. I think that the only thing they wanted was for us to realize that there's an opportunity to learn how to skate, and they wanted us to teach us how to skate. That was really the driving point at the beginning. And then as we worked through our childhoods and then became teenagers, that's really when things started to get into our own heads. I speak for myself, but a little bit for my brother as well, and we've talked about this. But it got into our own head as an individual that this is something I really wanted to pursue. And in those teenage years, those are pretty critical years, but I kept pursuing it. And then I found success, and I wanted to see what other kind of success, and that's how I kept the momentum going. So I don't think that there was ever an intention at the beginning by my parents to have world-class athletes, or to produce world-class athletes. But it's just the way it turned out, and it's just the individuals that we became in the end.
And your brother, Danny Morrison, is also an Olympic champion. How do you feel about it?
Danny's an unbelievably motivated and determined individual. He is my younger brother, so there are obvious rivalries that are between us. So we always joke around, and it's a constant bantering about, Danny's only better at me at one thing, and only barely, the skating. But I'm better at everything else. Well, we're always joking around. I love it. I love the fact that he's found his way to being a top 5 international athlete in the sport. It's unbelievable to think of, my chubby-cheeked little brother now at that level in sport. But he'll always just be my little brother. He's one of my best friends. He's been my roommate throughout college and university when we were training together. He's been my teammate. He'll always be my brother. So he's all of those things, and it's amazing that that person in my life has been able to attain this type of, or to get to this level of achievement.
And he's always made Fort St. John proud. And besides, you always mention he's lucky.
He mentions that he's lucky. He does mention that. And then on the flip side of the coin, you have to be good to be lucky.
Absolutely.
So I think that he does, and he has been lucky in a lot of ways, but he is lucky because he's good. So some people think, a lot of people think that he's all talent, that Denny's all talent, that he could just step onto the line and win races. But that's not the truth at all, actually. It may appear that way from the outside, but to know Denny's ability to focus, and he practices that, is almost unmatched from anybody else I've seen. His ability to and that focus takes him to places where he can tolerate pain, and he can skate through pain, and he can approach it and deal with it in a way that I've also not seen from anybody else, on the team. And he's just determined and driven. But, I've seen Denny work through struggle and difficulty, he's not. It's not all lucky for him. It's not all lucky at all. He has worked through things and really grown as a person in doing that. And I think it comes down to his work ethic and a lot of really hard work and determination that has brought him to where he is now.
Excellent. So obviously the quote, the harder we work, the luckier we get, seems to be true here.
Yeah. And we work hard, and we focus on working well also.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And for yourself, you were national outdoor champion 6 times, and then you also won a medal at Junior World Championship. Tell us a little more about these accomplishments.
Yeah, those outdoor championships, those were being raced by me in my teenage years, and maybe just 10 to 12, kind of 10 to 16 range. Those were building blocks really for me, and from there you go on to more senior levels. So you race against all the under 20 in Canada, and that's called the Junior Canadian Championship. So at the age of 17, my goal was to get onto the Junior Canadian team by racing at that competition, and that was in Quebec. And I remember that I went there with that goal and intention of racing my best races to make that team, and I was able to do that. I won the Junior Canadian Championships that year, and I won the Junior Canadian Championships for 2 years after that. And from winning that competition, you get to go and race at international competitions and the Junior World Championships. So that's where the bronze medal, I can remember it still, in Calalbo, Italy, the northern parts of Italy and the Dolomite Mountains. It's just an unbelievable place. But that's where I won that bronze medal in the 1500 when I was about, I would have been 18 or 19 years old. And then that in itself was another stepping stone into the senior levels and the senior ranks. So I then went on to race Senior Canadian Championships. So that's everybody. That's the best of, that's any age, anybody. And in the 1500 again, I had great success early on, and then went on to race the World Cup circuit. And then you get onto the World Championships, and you get into these international competitions. And I saw some success later on in life as well on the senior level. And some of the times, some of the most memorable moments were for certain when Denny and I would actually get to race together. So sometimes we would race against each other in the same race, but other times we actually raced both for Canada on the same team pursuit, and we would be racing together.
Great.
And some of the highlights were certainly stepping on medal podiums with Denny at that highest level of sport in sort of a unified effort, so to speak.
So how many awards have you won so far, and what are your other interests?
In terms of awards, I'm not certain on a number of awards, but over the years I've won, different community awards, different athletic awards, and even up to the, different premiers awards and that sort of thing. So it's great to be honored, or I feel honored to be recognized in that way.
Great.
But it has always been about the skating and pursuing that passion.
Excellent.
In terms of, I'm still kind of living my life based on those same principles of pursuing a passion. So I do have a full-time job now. You know, I'm working in Northeast BC, right here in Fort St. John, and across the province. But outside of that, there are other passions I pursue. I've been into a lot of long distance sports, really. I like the long distance cycling. I did that for many years. And now I've, for the last 2 or 3 years, gotten into long distance hiking and long distance running. And it's all on trails, like off-road. So some of the ultra distance marathons. Just a couple of weeks ago, actually, I finished a 50-miler down in Manning Park, all in the mountains, off-road, on really nice hiking trails. So that's what I love now, and my wife, who also lives in town, and my baby, we're always going hiking together, and I think that we all kind of love that activity together.
Superb. And what does sportsman spirit mean to you?
You know, I think to be a sports, to have good sportsmanship is to be an athlete who will compete hard, but have respect for and maintain respect for all of their competitors. You know, before the race, even during the race, after the race, you need to compete during the race, obviously. You don't need to be best friends with everybody, but it's to maintain that respect for the rest of humankind, right? Like, they're pursuing the same thing as you are, and being competitive is a good thing when it's viewed in the right way. But for certain, to be a good sportsman, I think that a person needs to maintain respect for other people.
Thank you. And we came to know about injury, sadly, of your brother. So how is his health now?
Denny suffered, massive injuries from a motorcycle accident about 2.5 years ago. And then as a result of that, he suffered from a stroke about 1.5 years ago. So since the stroke, he's been clawing his way back to skating and training and competing ever since that motorcycle accident, which was nearly fatal, actually. So it's an amazing story in itself. Just the sort of recovery he's had is phenomenal. But to then get back on the ice and be training at the level he is again is really phenomenal. I think his recovery, it's going exceptionally well. Good. He's not completely out of the dark yet, I don't think, and he still does suffer from some of the lingering effects of the accident and the stroke, but he's working through it in a really methodical and concerted way, in conjunction with the support team he's got around him, and I think that he's doing about his best as well as anybody could coming out of those types of injuries.
Please convey our best wishes to him. And
will do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to our program, and
Yeah.
we wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Welcome. Thank
Thanks.
you.